YouTube. Preparing stream. We're about 10 seconds away. I'll give you a cue here, Melissa, when it starts.
Okay.
Okay. We're
Cool.
live.
Yay.
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 Okay. Take it away.
Okay. Welcome everybody to Sacred Spaces, Elders Storytelling. My name is Iakowi Oaks. I'm the Executive Director of the American Indian Community House. And today we have our Board Treasurer, Francis Grumbly. And we also have a few other board members here as well. Perhaps we could take turns in asking Fran some questions. Or maybe Lance, you could talk about your Auntie Fran and your experiences at AICH as well in conversation. No. I know you have some pretty good stories you can dig out for us with Fran, so. And I also got the pictures. So yeah, hello Fran, Sego, welcome.
Thank you, hello everyone.
Can you tell us how many years you were working at AICH?
Well, actually, off and on, I would say about 22. I was there, and then I kind of left, went to the Flying Eagle Woman Fund, and then I came back again. Actually, worked both Flying Eagle Woman Fund and H at the same time. We used to work till 11 o'clock at night. Those were the good old days. Love that city at night.
Yeah.
So that's about how long. I've seen a lot of people come and go.
You're from Akwesasne, you're from the same territory as me. You're Mohawk Bear Clan, right?
Yes, I am. Yes.
How did you and your family end up in New York City? Can you tell us a little bit about your younger years and how you got there?
Well, I'll start with my grandparents. My grandfather was a horse trainer when the wealthy people had stables. So he trained their horses, and my grandmother became their housekeeper, cooking, etc. My father moved down here when he married my mother, and we actually lived in Greenwich, Connecticut. Well, we lived in White Plains for a period of time, but actually spent most of our years in Greenwich, Connecticut, where all of the wealthy estates were and still are. So that's how we ended up in Connecticut. But spent a tremendous amount of time going into the city among the Native American community there. I mean, there was a big Native American community. There was actually on State Street in Brooklyn, that was a total, I think it was more Mohawk, wasn't it, Lance? Didn't all the Mohawks live there? Oh, he's got to unmute himself.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, thank you. Short and sweet. And they all lived in the same building, and it was really pretty interesting to have a building that was mostly comprised of Native Americans. My father was an iron worker, so he had a lot of work down here. He wasn't the one, once he married my mother, he did not do that travel back and forth thing. He just stayed until he passed when I was about 3 or 4, and I had a younger brother, and my mother was expecting my youngest brother at that time. So we just kind of, stayed. We were pretty set. So I grew up and went to all of the Greenwich schools. As a matter of fact, Monica and I were commiserating about she lived half the places that I lived. I couldn't
know,
believe
that's
it.
so
We were going, what?
crazy.
Yeah,
It's
she
so
goes,
crazy.
I lived on Bart Line and I lived in Costco, and we're like, oh my God, you know, all the places that, you know, she lived, I lived.
Yeah,
I actually,
someday.
I paved the way for her, is what I did.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy.
That's some path you paved.
So she could be successful there.
Oh, well, thank you. But keep putting out those vibes.
I took all those questions and all, can I touch your hair? You know, long black hair, and people asking what I was, you know, that kind of thing. So once they got that out of their system, Monica came along. She had no problems, I hope. But yeah,
No.
it was interesting. It was interesting being, I think there might have been one other older family of Native Americans living in Greenwich, but basically, you know, the four of us, we were the only ones, Native kids who were in school.
I was
So-
gonna ask that. How did you feel being
Well, you
like
want to talk about it, assimilation. We totally assimilated. I have to tell you, we totally assimilated. You know, I guess we just couldn't help it, you know. We were there among all these, what do you want to call them? Upper middle class wealthy people. And so we either had to, even though we were poor as church mice, for crying out loud, we didn't really know it because we had such a good family background. There was always food on the table, all of those things. Of course, we took off every single weekend for the powwow circuit and visiting our friends. And summer, forget it, we were gone most of the time. So my sister Rosemary, who used to be the executive director, and I used to talk about how we easily moved between the two cultures. You know, when we were with our Native people, we were Native. When we were in Greenwich, we weren't Native. We were just, you know, one of the gang, going to the football games, trying out for the cheerleading squad, all that kind of stuff. Going to religion classes, which I didn't like too much, but anyway. So yeah, we were very fortunate. It also, at that time, afforded us a really good education in the Greenwich schools, which at the time, you know, we're talking 65, even 70 years ago, that we as Native people suffered because we were not getting the right education to prepare us for this world. And so we felt we were rather fortunate that we learned how to speak English well, which, as a matter of fact, after a while, we never even, my grandparents used the Mohawk language as their secret language, so we lost it. We knew all the phrases when they asked us to come to dinner, and when, you know, they named the different foods and things like that, what we were going to have. But basically, we lost the language skills that we had begun to develop, for which, you know, I feel a little sorry. That's why I kind of am looking forward. I hope that before I pass into the other world, I can learn the Mohawk language again, and at least try to pass it on to my children and my grandchildren. So yeah, so that was my early life in Connecticut. And I stayed there until I got married and moved to Norwalk, but always moved into that Native circle within the city and all around the tri-state area. It was a pretty interesting life.
Is that how you ended up in New York City? Was you were searching for a Native community?
No, actually, we were always in New York City. We always went into New York City because that's where all the Native people were. As a matter of fact, Muriel Miguel and her sister Gloria and her other sister Elizabeth, their family ran these shows, these Indian shows and things, which were pretty popular. I mean, they were the only action in town then, and it was pretty funny when you think about it and look back on it, because they used all different cultures to put on these shows, which now, you know, when we go to them, we go, oh, that's not a Mohawk, he's wearing a crow thing, you know, and stuff like that, which, you know, we didn't know the difference. We just went with the flow. Parades, they had parades and things like that. And people enjoyed them, and we enjoyed it. And we enjoyed, you know, going there. The other community that we went to was in New Haven. There were a lot of natives in New Haven, and we would go there too and spend days, weekends, and just, you know, be natives, you know, because we could. So that's how we ended up in the city. And you know, when we were able to go in on our own, it was so easy to just jump on the train and go into the city and go a little wild. we were a little wild. There were some pretty interesting things we did back in those days. And we used to go to the Thunderbird Powwows at the 23rd Street Y, which were greatly attended. It was a lot of fun. And there was a bar across the street. And I know that Nadima had mentioned it was called the Blarney Stone. And we would just, as soon as the powwow was over, we'd go across the street to the Blarney Stone and we'd party a bit. Kids in tow, kids running all around the bar, you know, changing diapers on the tables and things like that. I mean, we enjoyed ourselves. That was a lot of fun. We enjoyed the social, but we enjoyed the social event afterwards even more. So it was pretty fun. It really was. And, you know, it was nice to do that.
I'm wondering about a certain time period. I know that when you say you all assimilated, and you kind of say that like it's okay, and like it just happened, but I just want to give some context to the people watching and in conversation that it was illegal up until 1978 to practice our culture, our languages, and our ceremony. So, you know, this wasn't all like fun and games, like we can just go and assimilate, but this was actually forced upon us. And it's really sad. And I share the same thing as you, Fran, that my grandparents and your parents were the last ones in my family to fluently all day speak Mohawk.
Yep, all day.
You know, and that we were stripped of that for these oppressive settler colonial laws set upon us, obviously that were non-consensual, you know, and forced on us. I know that, I'm not sure what your experiences were, but my mother, my aunties, and my uncles, my grandparents were in residential school, but that's a whole other topic. But my aunties and uncles were like beaten and abused. They could not wear a bead, a feather. They couldn't speak any words in our language at all or identify in any way. So I want to make that clear to everybody that's listening, that this is the reality and it's very recent. I was born in 79 and it was in 78 when this law was eradicated and we're allowed to. It was like 100+ years that we couldn't practice ceremony. That's a couple of generations of grandparents that, you know, couldn't pass on our culture. So, you know, to me, it makes me, you know, feel a certain type of way in not being so passive when, you know, saying that was forced on us, that assimilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because we only would spend the summer up there, by the end of the summer, we were back to being natives. And then we had to switch back when we came back after the summer and attended school again. But I remember all the years when suddenly some of my cousins would show up at our front door and they would be living with us, sometimes 2. And it was because they were going to be sent to the residential school. And, you know, and that's why we're there. Now, I don't know if any of you grew up when your elders and your grandparents didn't tell you, they didn't share a lot of things with you. They didn't tell you really what was going on. So you thought, oh, hey, everything's fine. I'm doing good, and then you find out later on that all of these things were going on, but they were not sharing them with you. So you had to learn them after the fact. That's a little difficult for me, because I thought, wow, I wouldn't have been so happy go lucky and lackadaisical and woo, let's go to the beach, woo.
How old were you when you started to learn things?
That kind of thing. I might have
How old were you?
I might have thought a little bit more. I did not become totally aware and become so involved in my community until later on. I did the whole thing here in Fairfield County. I taught religion class. I was a den mother. I was a Girl Scout leader. I was all these non-native things that, what I was expected to be living in Fairfield County. Until it was the weekends, and then we did our other thing. But yeah, it was, I kind of wish that I had known more at that time. I might have been able to set people straight earlier than later.
We set them straight now though, right, friend?
Oh, I set them straight. You better believe it.
We're like a team.
Oh yeah. Oh, hold on, wait a minute.
I'm wondering now, in 1978, did you feel a shift like in your life being Native American in 1970 or 1979 after that law was eradicated, ban in our ceremonies, language, and culture? Did you?
Yes. Yes, a little bit, only because that's when I became fully aware of the impact of what was going on. Not to mention the fact that here I was, this mother, housewife and all of that kind of stuff. And then I realized, what I needed to do and what I needed to become. And I did. I felt it when I spoke to other natives who were truly more aware of it than I was at the time. I mean, I have to admit, I was pretty lackadaisical about stuff, and with my head in the sand. And I'm so glad that, I could still be that way, because let's face it, there are still a lot of our people who are still practicing that way. We know that, but yeah, that's the only thing I regret, not being allowed to speak the language within the family. We know that at that time, a lot of families would speak it only in their home, but not outside the home because they weren't allowed to. So, yeah, that I kind of regret that, not really being a part of the language and the culture. What happened with us, because we lived here and we went to these social events and these powwows, we were not inured in our Mohawk culture. We were inured in all of the cultures. We learned how to buffalo dance. We learned how to do all of these dances, the Inuit dances, all of those. These are the things that we learned because technically we became show people, performers. This is what we did. We put on shows and we made money.
Were you in shows?
Yeah, I was in a lot of shows. I gave it up and I became the costume person. I had made sure that they were correct in what they were wearing and not, mixing them up.
Yes, Mohawk.
Yeah, and they did a little bit. This was with the Thunderbird Dancers. Yeah, they did little segments of different areas, and by that time they stuck, pretty true to what they were, with a few exceptions, which I won't go into right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to insult anybody.
How about
yeah,
your lovely nephew Lance? He was a powwow dancer, right?
oh, he was a champion.
Tell us more.
Do you want to tell us, Lance, or shall? You're muted. He's muted.
I think she's asking you.
Oh, you want me to tell? Well, he has his perspective. This is my perspective. He grew up in a community he did not like the city at all. So he left the city to live with his father in Kent, Connecticut. And he went to a very prestigious school for a period of time. What was the name of that? What was that? The Kent School.
No, I went to the public school.
Well, he was supposed to go to
I lived in Kent, but I didn't go to Kent. I went to the public school.
Yeah, he was supposed to go to the Kent school, but he ended up going to the public school. And there again, he got a really good education and all of that. And then he would still dance. And when he was in school, in college, there he is. Wasn't he handsome? Look at that beautiful boy. He was a really good dancer too. He took various jobs, and then he figured out that he could make more money on the powwow circuit, and he made more money being a powwow dancer and being a winner, with the big pots. So that's what he did for a number of his summers. Isn't that right, Lance? Is that how it came about?
Yeah, it wasn't just me. It was Kevin.
Oh,
And
yeah, Kevin.
I should say Kevin usually would place higher than me almost always, which was
Yeah,
a sore
that
subject.
was amazing
for
because
us.
Kevin was.
But yes, we made a lot of money.
They did. They made a lot of money. They were winners. Kevin was always a very heavy, chunky boy, but he flew. I mean, his feet hardly ever. It amazed me to watch him dance. He was like, how could anybody as big as Kevin be so light on his feet like that? It was just amazing. But yeah, they were quite a pair. They were beautiful out there. They really
As
were.
his best friend, I feel I should say he wasn't always that chunky, but just for the record, since his sisters are listening.
He has a
yeah,
strong
but I mean,
spirit.
for he wasn't this svelte, thin. He was chunky, but man, he flew like his feet barely touched the ground. It was a beautiful thing to watch. It really was.
Is there any pictures or video of you? I would like to see you guys dancing.
Do we have any videos, Lance?
Obviously, back then, not everyone had a camera with them, so it's less
Yeah.
common. But yeah, there's got to be.
Yeah, there should be somewhere.
Oh, yeah. I can. I have a picture. Give me a second. This is more when we're older, though, like out of high school. But hold on. Keep talking.
And what did you dance? Traditional women's? Did you compete?
No, I did not compete. I just danced. All I did was dance. I enjoyed myself, but I never competed, but I have to tell you, I cannot believe that I used to be able to do the smoke dance. And I remember, oh my God, gasping for breath when it was all over, because that's really a tough dance, and it's long, but I always enjoyed it. And I always lost at least 5 pounds every weekend when we would go to powwow because of all the dancing and being out in the sun and the whole thing. But yeah, it was great. And we would wash up in a sink, if there was a sink. And our grandparents would cook over open fires on big iron skillets. And that's where I learned to drink coffee, because they gave us what we called camp coffee, which was half milk, half coffee, and lots of sugar with whatever they were cooking. Yeah, wasn't that great? Yeah. So that's how I learned how to, and so I still like my coffee sweet. I don't like it as light anymore, but I still like it sweet. I cannot drink coffee without the milk, But yeah, those were the days, and running around, if you'll excuse the expression, like wild Indians. And that's what we did all day, all night. Oh my God, we had so much fun. And then they would have what they call the 49ers. After everybody left, and everybody would stay up around the drum and sing and dance. And of course, there was a certain amount of drinking, but still, those are the things, those are the memories. Those are good to hold on to for sure.
Who was on the drums back then?
There were different groups. Thunderbird drums, and they would have the drum contests that they would come from all over Canada, all of those places. But then there was just a handful of them and it would be the same drums, drumming and singing for us.
Nice. I think I remember pictures at AICH headquarters of, I think maybe like Russell Means, Oren Lyons, and that was in the early days of H, right? 'Cause I think they would come. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were there. We had a lot of, really, I guess you'd call them celebrities now. I remember one day Wes Studi came to visit us when we were way downtown across from the National Museum of the Native American. I don't know, I'm not sure what he was there for. And it might have been, I think it might have been after he did Drums Along the Mohawk, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And I couldn't help it. I had to say to him, I really hated you in that movie. Because he was so nasty and mean and, the whole thing. But, and then we went across the street, and the museum had like a little social. So I got to dance with next to Wes Studi, doing Lance, it escaped my mind.
Two-step?
When everybody can dance.
The two-step or the round dance?
It was the round dance, but it was also the intertribal, going around like that, an intertribal, and chit-chatting with him. And he they look so big on the screen. I'm 5'9", and he was about my height. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he was so small, because he looked so big, But yeah, and he was pretty decent. He was pretty friendly then. He spent some time at the community house. We had a lot of interesting people in those early days at the community house. Little Steven from The Sopranos spent a lot of time at the community house. He was there quite a bit, visiting and sitting and discussing, and he was a supporter, of course. Who else? Lance, who else used to come around that pretty well known? And
can you reduce it, Fran?
I don't know how. I don't see the little thing that lets me get out of there.
If you scroll over the corner, top left corner, there might be the little, you see the little X to close that page, the email.
Yeah, no, those little things.
Can she share her screen?
Yeah, you should be able to share your screen, and we can help you through it.
Oh my
But then that
God.
might be it's hard too.
Yeah,
And
forgive
there it
us.
is. I'm like, what? It just popped up out of nowhere.
Go get water or something while we solve these technical issues.
Hit
Okay.
Command
ahead.
M or the little Apple M.
Press Command M.
Yeah, and that should minimize the window.
It might be in the, I don't know if they're in your frame.
Nope.
Can we survive with it just sitting there?
It's just, it's annoying. What it is it's annoying.
Is it your mail app is open?
Yeah, it's my email.
And you can't. Do you know the button on the top of your keyboard, sort of over to the left, that has the little squares on it, that if you press it, all the apps show up that are on your screen? You should be able to
I think it's F4.
F4?
3 or 4. Yeah, there's 2.
All right, let's see.
Try that, and then you might be able to see them all, and then you can click on Zoom.
Oops. Okay, so and then I click on the
Zoom.
Zoom thing. Nope, there it is. It's right back where it was.
And does it say mail? Does it say mail at the top left?
Yeah, it's old mail. It's there's email from Joy and bunch
You
of
See?
people.
Joy always ruins things.
You should be able to hit the drop down menu on the top of your mail bar at the top and just hit close.
Oh, this is ridiculous.
Do we have to get Jax to help you?
Jack. No. He has a new TV in his bedroom, so he is otherwise occupied. All right. I'm just going to deal with it.
Yeah, can you just move it to the side so it's like out of your way so you can see the screen? That might be.
Yeah, you could move it really
It
far
won't
one
move.
or down.
It's like it won't even move.
Easier way to adapt.
Can you see it?
We cannot see it.
Not unless you share your screen with us.
How do I share my screen?
Do you know where your video and mute options are on the Zoom bar?
Yeah.
There's a share screen button. You can click that
Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
and just share your desktop.
Share my desktop. Well, you know what comes up? It says mail. Can I click on it and see if I can get rid of it? Or not?
Is there just a desktop option when you
Yeah.
hit share? Because we
Yeah.
want to, click desktop. We want to see everything, because if you hit mail, it'll just show us the mail and that won't help.
Nope, it's not coming up. I cannot. It's
There we
coming-
go.
There it is.
Okay.
Okay, now
I
I'll
have
see if
one
I
like
can
that.
get rid of it.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
You
Is
got all
that-
your business out there.
That's all you've seen? Okay.
That's old business.
Fran, can you hit escape?
Escape.
Yeah,
All right, where's escape?
on the keyboard, it should be upper
Oh,
left.
delete,
No, not delete, escape.
escape.
ESC on the upper.
Oh, yeah, I
left.
got it. I found it. Okay.
Yay!
Oh,
So you had like full screened it.
Yeah.
So
I
now
got it.
quit
Now
out of mail.
I can get rid of it now. See,
Now you
that's
can
what
close
I was
it.
looking for that thing.
Yep. There you go.
Okay, now my Zoom screen is up.
Great. And you can stop sharing your screen. So you do that at the top.
Shared screen, yeah, I get it. Oops. Oh, gosh, I can't believe this happened. This
Come
is
back to
my,
us, friend. Come back to
this
us.
is my debut, for crying out
Your
loud.
debut.
Okay, hold
Do you
on.
see
here.
how to hit stop sharing screen at the top?
Yeah, I hit it. Stop sharing screen. Oh, stop share.
Stop share.
Gotcha.
There we go. She's back.
There you go. Okay. All right. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Okay, guys. So here we are.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Danielle had
Oh.
a question. She typed in the chat box here. And Danielle, feel free to unmute and ask, or if you want me to just read it. Let's see. Oh, I just lost it. Where'd it go? Scrolling up. If you could carry something from the wild days forward, what would you choose, Fran?
I would prefer to forget them, but from the wild days. I think I would carry the great fun that we always had, you know, and there was nothing dark hanging over us at those times. You know, we had kids, you know, things were going pretty good, and we had a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And I think that's probably it, you know, and the camaraderie that we all had, and the care for the community. You know, we were pretty well community oriented. You know, we cared about each other, and we looked out for each other, and we looked out for other people who came in. You know, there were people would come in, and you know that this city, New York, can eat people up in a heartbeat. And we had young people come from all over who couldn't handle it and left. They just couldn't handle it, and they left almost as quickly as they came. And that was sad, because you'd see somebody for a week or so, and then all of a sudden they'd disappear. And then you'd find out they went back without, you know. And sometimes I wonder if maybe we didn't try hard enough to bring them in, but you know, I thought we did, you know. But yeah, that kind of thing. Freedom. We had freedom.
Seems like there's a lot of negativity on us nowadays, right?
Yes, yeah, there is. You know, all of a sudden, you know, they watch what we do, and they watch what we say, and yeah, and we have to kind of push our way to get the things that that we need and want for our people. Maybe we didn't need and want them then. I don't know at that point, because we were so involved in just having good times and being, you know, being Native, you know. And there's more, we realize now as you get older, there's more to being Native than having fun and being out there. You really do have to preserve things. You have to preserve the culture. You have to preserve the language. All of those things. Besides moving in, if you're young and you happen to have a job, moving in, you know, the corporate world or wherever you happen to work. Yeah. You have to juggle a lot. And
What would you say are the best things at AICH for you and your family, like the best programs or the best services that the community house provided you and your family? What were your like favorite things?
I think the cultural events, the socials, you know, we all got to be together. The community house had an arts program, and they had what they called, every summer, they had various Native Americans who would either write a short play or do something, you know, musical, or they would do any one of those things, and then they would be showcased in this artists showcase, and everybody would go. So many people would go to these things and watch our young people, watch our older people even do these things, and things came about. Spider Woman Theater came about, a lot of different things, and there was always something to go to, something to see, something to listen to, and you know, it was a great time. And all of our kids were always with us. You know, they grew up in that atmosphere, you know, running from babyhood, you know, right on up. You know, we brought more of our children into these activities. I think more children than we do now. I'd like to see more children come in to our events and everything. We have a tendency to leave our children home.
Yeah, there's a few babies now, new babies in our community.
Yeah.
Actually,
love
like
this.
3 of my close friends just had babies in the past year in New York City, all Native women. I was thinking about what you just said in regards to something I just sort of learned about in the past year or so, the connection with AICH. Can you speak on Eulali?
Yeah, yes, I can. Oh,
I didn't know about them until you really, were like, oh, they were here at AICH.
yes, they
You know
were.
the trouble they caused?
We got one on here now.
You're just saying
Speak
that
up.
because Jennifer's there. Jennifer, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah, unmute.
Oh, yeah, good. Yeah, they wanted to know a little bit about Eulali. Well, Jennifer was she was so young, but she had such a beautiful, powerful voice. And Pura Fay, and there were some other in between there, but Sunny was part of them as well. And when they performed, oh my gosh, it was just some of their pieces, you couldn't stop your feet from moving. You couldn't help it. It was always such a wonderful, powerful thing. And one of the things that the community house did was let these artists that came in, they nurtured them and, helped them become who they are, which was great, and I think that we're doing that right now. I mean, we're going to have a reading. I think, is it tomorrow night, Melissa? Tomorrow night.
10:30, the rabbit play.
One of our young, Ryan Pierce was just a young guy, coming around, and now, he's written this play, and we're gonna have a reading of it, things like that. So we're still trying to do that, which, I think is great, really great.
Yeah, I agree. That's how I actually got introduced to the community house when I first moved to New York in 2008. Where I'm from in Northern Alberta, we have friendship centers. And so when I moved here, I was like, where are all the Indians? Let's Google friendship centers. And the community house came up. And so I contacted and was brought in, did my intake, but at the same time, it was around I think it was maybe the last year of the actor showcase, Native actor showcase.
Yeah.
We were doing. And so I got to be a part of that. And then I think that might have been 2009. But yeah,
I think it was the last one,
Mhm.
because we were funded by NISCA all those years. We also had a gallery that was funded by NISCA, and we had gallery openings. I can't remember, we had one every month or whether it was every other month, but they were widely attended, and we would showcase a lot of Native artists from all over the country. They would send in their artwork, and we had some really, really great things going, and I know that we're going to be having them going again, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Governor's Island, if it ever opens.
Yes. If we ever get back there, my
We
gosh.
started last year.
So I want to say that there would absolutely be no Eulali if it wasn't for the American Indian Community House. That's how Pudafay and Sunny met. That's where the group was founded. That's where the group was allowed to rehearse. Where so much of the creative energy and pretty much all of the support, especially in those beginning years, Genesis years, came from. And Rosemary helped so much. And I know we were all a pain in her ass. I know that. And I remember she'd sit there with her cigarettes. She made it look so much fun. Everybody smoked back then. And she would just be smoking. And anyway, the first video that Putafay and Sonny made Follow Your Heart's Desire. It was like a big thing back then.
I
That
remember.
was all out of the community house, and somehow money was found to help fund that in some budget somewhere, some line item. And community members were brought in to dance and to be a part of the video, and it won some awards. And I believe one or two of those went back to rest in Rosemary's office. They've probably been lost in all the shuffles since then. But that's because Rosemary was so integral and supportive of that. But that was before people were making music videos all the time.
Yeah.
It was like a thing. And yeah, I was in high school when they started, and they had men in the group, and then that didn't work out. And then it was down to Putafay, Sunny, and Matoka Little Eagle, who I think she's with Thunderbird too. I've seen her since I was a kid with Thunderbird. And then she moved on to other things. And then I knew all her parts. I knew all the parts to all the songs. And I was like, I know everything. And my cousin was like, well, we need another voice. And then it worked. It gelled. And then I was like, fuck college. I want to sing. So I dropped out of college and joined them full time. But it really, truly, no exaggeration, no lie, wouldn't have gone down the way it did without the American Indian Community House, period. What I also remember, Fran, my mom talks about you all the time. She loves you. And she used to really love visiting Rosemary's office, because as people quit smoking and realized how bad it was, my mom and Rosemary held on to that. That's how they bonded. Anyway, but one thing I noticed when I started, because I consider myself more of a satellite community member because I was born and raised in Connecticut. But one thing I noticed was people talk about these movements now as if they're brand new, but I don't know if it's just that the New York community was just ahead of the curve, but like Two-Spirit people were running the arts when I was a teenager there. It like totally supported, totally seat at the table. There was no like ostracizing anyone for being Two-Spirit. That's where I learned what Two-Spirit was, that it was a thing. I didn't even know it was a thing. And that Wiwa and Bartiampe group and Dykes on Bikes, everybody would march in the parade, and everybody supported everybody, and everybody went to each other's art, and mostly everybody that was really excelling was Two-Spirit, and all on the different whatevers of the spectrum. And then just that border was not a thing with the New York community, but long before it became a thing, I remember people, indigenous people from South America, Vera and Hortensia Coatlicue, their plays, God, they blew me away. And then when they started doing the Day of the Dead, but it was long before it's now a thing. And one thing I noticed is a lot of younger generations, and it's not their fault, this was before camera phones and cell phones, they don't know, you know what I mean? But we didn't, the New York community didn't recognize those borders. So I came up as a teenager in that headspace of that. So it wasn't until I went to other places in Indian country where I was like, oh, people are racist. Oh, people don't like indigenous people from Mexico, or I didn't know that because of coming up in the New York community where that just, it wasn't a thing. Maybe one or two people had some slick shit to say, but it wasn't, it was just ahead of the curve. And I have so many good experiences and just got to be a part of and see a lot of people grow and evolve. And I got to go to a lot of the different, every time Trudell would come around, and we were all such stupid Trudell fans. And
I forgot to mention him.
And then you get to know that he's just human after all. I'll just leave it at that. And just like everybody. And it was just a really good experience. But what I do know is that the American Indian Community House, Rosemary Richmond, and Fran U2, and Flying Eagle, all gave so much support to artists on different levels in different ways. I am kind of sorry everything wasn't recorded, but I guess that's what we're all here for. We remember, and but now we have to tell these stories because
Yeah.
there was so much art going on back
Yeah.
then,
It was,
and service to other people. All right, I'll shut up. It's your turn.
and the other thing I forgot to mention is, when the Oka thing was going on, I mean, boy, Rosemary rallied the troops like you wouldn't believe and sent people up. And I mean, it was a big deal. I mean, we were getting in there. I see Patricia wants to talk.
Yeah. Go ahead, Patricia. Unmute yourself. Where are you?
Hold on. Hi.
Hi.
I can't unmute. I just want to say hi because I'm gonna lose phone service.
Oh,
So
Shoot. You all know that we lost a member of our community to COVID, and it was Patricia and Kathleen and Margaret Tarrant's mother and Gracie's grandmother. And they are on their way back from North Dakota. And, our hearts go out to them, and, we are going to miss Vicky tremendously. But we're so happy to have the girls coming back.
Hi, everyone. This is
Hi.
Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi. I wanted to tell a quick story also about the community house. When we were younger, Ingrid rallied the troops and had a fundraiser for this woman from Siberia. And, now in Alaska, I met her grandson and we are now engaged. But that's kind of how the community house worked,
Wow.
Met people from all over the place.
Oh.
And I really didn't even know that I had met his grandmother until his mother was talking about this time she went to New York City. And I realized that we had met her because my mom didn't know there were Indians in Siberia, and she really had to go meet her because she looked like her auntie.
See, there goes that circle again.
Yeah, and it's circle. Like that, like Jen was saying, we didn't believe in borders. There's no borders at the community house.
No.
And,
No judgment.
if you're indigenous, you're indigenous, and it didn't matter where you came from.
Yeah.
Mom.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm back. My phone went out, so I had to leave. But I want to say thank you for everything, about the community house, and it's been tough these last couple of days.
Yeah.
But we're doing okay.
Good.
I want to
We
thank
love
you for the honoring for my mom.
Yes, she loved the community house.
She loved the community house and everybody.
Yes.
That
we
was
loved
her
too.
family.
Thank you.
You guys are our family. We were raised in the community house, and I wouldn't change any of that for anything, because we were all loved, and we all learned how to dance, and we learned each other's dances, and it's really, really hard for us to lose our mom,
Yes,
because she was such a big part of the community, and
she was.
so many people have reached out, and we really, really appreciate your love and support.
Well, we hope to see lots of you in the near future. We truly do. Thank you.
We have a
Okay.
photo here. I'm gonna pull up pretty quick.
Love you, girl. Also, I wanted to say real quick, me and my sisters are planning to hold a big powwow in New York City in my mother's name in a year for her memorial. So that is something that we would really like to do for our community in New Jersey. Oh,
Okay,
look,
there's your
Mom and
mom.
old Rosemary and Gag and
Yeah, that was
Auntie
at
Fran. Holy cow. Oh,
that was at Donald and
Oh yeah.
Their wedding out there. Yep, that was a fun time.
Hello.
Yeah, they were great ladies. And they let me hang with them sometimes.
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna go on back on mute, and I just want to say thank you again because I may lose serve too. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Whoa,
But it's
thank you
home.
for
So
sharing. Oh, that was nice.
Thank you for
Good to
joining
see.
us. We hope to see you all soon.
I just want, I know we're a little over, but I wanted to mention that I don't know if any of you have gone on the Facebook page, but Lance did during that period of time when, you know, we were really involved in the arts and making videos and things like that, and our artist showcase. Lance did a video, a short video that was filmed at the community house and out in Shinnecock. And what's the name of it, Lance? I forgot. Oops, I guess he went to get his dinner. But if
It
check,
can't rain all the time.
okay, and it was really quite something to be there, seeing it, you know, being made and becoming a part of it. And it was really good, Lance. And we thought you were actually going to be going into that field. Here you are, typing away.
Here you are, Lance.
Yeah, here I am.
Yeah. But if you get a chance, I think I saw it up there. You put it up there, didn't you, Melissa?
No, not yet. We're going to put it on the
not yet?
website. Discussion that I need to have further with Lance, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
we're
H,
gonna post
H
it.
produced that, so you guys own it.
Oh, yes. Okay, we have the rights. All right.
We also have one of the Colorado sisters as
Yeah, there's a
well.
lot of people, right, on there?
Yeah, I mean, the whole community. I mean, hundreds of people showed up whenever we needed help. So all the girls are on it. Trisha, Margaret, Kathleen, Josephine, when she was like, I don't know, 8 months.
Yeah,
She's in it.
yeah.
Yeah,
I have a couple more pictures to share here, Fran. Okay, I'm gonna pull.
Okay.
Got about 5, so I'll just go through them one by one here.
Oh, gosh.
Start from the beginning. Let's see.
Fran, tell us a little bit about the staff at the American Indian Community House where you were working there. Like, who did you work with? And, you know, like, who were they? Who were you all as a group, as a collective?
Well, when I was working in the accounting department, we had some Native women, but because accounting, people weren't doing that as much. Some of the key people in accounting were non-Native, and one of them still works with us. Oh, there's my grandfather. Oh gosh. My oldest daughter, Karen.
So that's Auntie Fran on the right with the young kid on her lap. And then
That's
that's my
right.
mother on the left with me on her lap.
Yeah.
And then that's my dad in the back left. And then that's Uncle Pat right next to him.
Yep. Wow. Forgot about that. Yeah, so I think Cheyenne worked in the accounting department. Who else worked in that Native, who was Native? Kevin worked in the accounting department.
She was from Shinnecock.
Wanda Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah, Wanda Hunter worked in the accounting department as well. And then we had 2 non-natives who were just, both of them said when they came to the community house, they found a home. One of them is Hope, who still works. Oh, look, there's Rosemary, Ali. That's our office. No, that's Rosemary's office. And of
On
course,
the 8th floor.
On the 8th floor at the community house at 404 and 708. Yep. There's that basket you showed the other night. Is that it there? That one up there, Lance?
Yeah, I guess. I
Yeah,
also,
that looks like it. Yep.
that pottery I have up there
Yeah.
as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I will say, my mother carried that back on her lap from Arizona when she was younger. I don't know what age before I was born. And at some point when I was 1 or 2, I broke it. Piece of it. It's
Oh.
glued back together in the back, but
Yeah, there's a piece missing. Yeah. Oh, there's Rosemary and Gracie at Shinnecock. The ladies. 2 of the big 3. They used to call Muriel, Gracie, and Rosemary the big 3.
they ran everything like the mafia.
Yeah, they sure did. Wow.
And
Including all the kids.
Fran, somebody had asked me if I can ask you, I lost again. Can you talk about the relation between Vane Mofsey and her mother and how they grew up along Louis Mofsey and Josie Mofsey?
Yes. The Mofseys were very, very good friends of ours. They actually, Vane Mofsey was a very good friend of my grandmother and my grandfather. And then, of course, my mother. And they would come out to Connecticut a lot of weekends on Barton Lane, Monica. And they would spend weekends and we would play, and we did a lot of crafts. We made drums to sell at the powwows out of those big cans that the sauce would come in, those large cans. And we would pull birch bark off the trees and wrap it around them. And we would put black rubber from the inner tubes over them and lace them down and paint them, and then make drumsticks, and those we would sell at the powwows. And my grandmother would make her baskets. As I said in one of the past ones, she was a wonderful basket maker, and I used to make baskets with her. And she would sell her baskets at the powwows. And that's how we made a lot of our, our money in those days, And I remember we spent about 6 months when we left the reservation just before Christmas, because it was so cold. Oh my God, 10 and 12-foot drifts. And we came down to New York, but where we were going, they were building these apartments, and ours was not ready. So we stayed with the Mofseys, and it was a tenement. It had the most ugly, awful bathroom out in the hall that everybody on that floor shared. It was so spooky. I hated going in there, but it was a 3-room tenement. It was the front room, the small kitchen, and it had the sink had that a tin or something over it. That was the bathtub. So you would put this thing on, and that became your kitchen counter, and then 1 bedroom in the bath and in the back. And there were 4 or 5. There were 6 kids. We all slept in the back, and my grandparents slept on a trundle bed, and Veen slept. What did Veen? Veen, I think, slept on a cot, and we lived like that for about 3 months in the city. But it was a wonderful time because it was on West 67th Street, so we would go to the planetarium. We would go to the Museum of Natural History. We just kind of roamed around, doing a lot of things, and that was a great time. We were great friends. We
Did they film West Side Story around where Uncle Louis lived?
Yeah, I think they did, come to think of it. Now that you mention it, they did. And that has since become, they tore those tenements down, and it became
Lincoln Center.
Lincoln Center, right. It is now Lincoln Center. So you could say we lived at Lincoln Center, but I'll never forget it. You know, all three in each bed in the back, in the back, cozy as little bed bugs. You know, it was quite an interesting time. Those were good years. And I think that we weren't the only families that lived like that. And I found it very interesting when we spent some time this summer at the Tenement Museum. I thought, oh my God, I lived in one of these. This is what I lived in. You know, one of these tenement apartments. You know, that wasn't too bad. But as I said, the worst was that bathroom out in the hall that everybody shared, and it didn't seem like anybody ever cleaned it. So that was rough, you know, with the pull chain, you know, from the top and everything. Really, that was something.
Hey, Fran, I have a question.
Sure.
Can you, it doesn't have to be big details. Can you just briefly speak about Flying Eagle Woman Fund?
Oh, yes, Flying Eagle Woman Fund. Ingrid Wishenawatuck Isa, of course, was board chair of the American Indian Community House. She worked for the Rockefellers. This Anne Rockefeller Roberts started this Fund of the Four Directions. That younger generation of Rockefellers kind of got ashamed about how they made their money. And so they all became philanthropists. And so she was executive director, and they traveled all over the world. Maki, are you still there? No. Well, Maki traveled all over the world with his mother. And this one time they were going to Colombia, and Maki was about 13, and she decided he was in 8th grade and it wasn't a good thing to take him down. And unfortunately, they were captured by the revolutionary forces down there, Ingrid and her 2 companions, and they were eventually murdered. And out of that, the Flying Eagle Woman Fund was formed. Ali became the CEO and I became the executive director. And what we did was we tried to support women, hence, you know, because of the Flying Eagle Woman Fund and their endeavors. You know, we would give scholarships and things like that. And, you know, we kept, the first year, we ran the whole organization on $36,000. We were so frugal and we were very careful on how we spent our money. But of course, that was because of the community house. And Ro gave us a space in the front. It wasn't a big office, but she gave us a space in the front, and we were able to function out of that. And if it wasn't for her, we might not have made it, because of course she didn't charge us a lot of rent, which was good. And eventually the Fund of the Four Directions, the Rockefellers gave us a big grant. And we sailed on that grant for about 11 years on that money only. So, you know, and we continued to help as many people as we could, mostly Native women, students, and artists, and everything in their anything that they did. And that's how that came about. We still run, but we don't have a place. You know, we're still running. We got totally involved with the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, because that's what Ingrid was involved with at the time of her death, and working to make that become a reality, which it did. And she never lived to see that it became a reality. She and that other wonderful woman at across the street at the you know, the Methodist church, Esmeralda Brown, they worked together on that. I mean, and she passed away, I think, last year, and you know, we went there. But the community house, the Flying Eagle Woman Fund, and, you know, that Methodist church, were very tightly wound, very tightly wound. And, you know, we will continue to be tightly wound. So that's how that happened. It was unfortunate. It was a very hard time. That's a whole nother story that would take a week to tell. You know, it was just unbelievable what transpired, unbelievable. But out of it came the Flying Eagle Woman Fund.
Fran, can you tell us a little bit about the American Indian Law Alliance and how that got started?
Oh, yes. We also, I'm sorry, I forgot that, but yeah. Tanya Ganella Frischner became a lawyer, and she worked she actually worked at the community house for a while she was still going to school. The community house really supported a lot of people while they were getting their credentials and going to school, and, you know, this is what we did. And she started the American Indian Law Alliance, and they had a little office on 708 Broadway as well. And they would work with Native people, helping them, but most of their focus really became on the big issues in Native country. That they focused a lot on those big issues, and they worked at they worked with the Permanent Forum as well. As a matter of fact, she became, I forget what her title was, but she became a really big shot for one of the years. Every year they named somebody to become, oh, I can't think of the title. And she was it, kind of like a moderator. And that's what she did, so. And yeah, that's how that came about. And I don't know if anybody availed themselves of their service, you know, if any of you did that at that time or not. But yeah, they would give advice, and they would give legal advice, and, you know, help you draw up papers and things like that. But then they turn their focus to more international things in Native country.
Tell us about Rosemary.
Oh, you can't say enough about Rosemary. I know she was my sister, but she was there at the very beginning when Mike Bush, she became Mike Bush's assistant. And then somehow Mike Bush phased out. I don't know how that happened. And she was acting director, and she became executive director. And there again, we were mostly federally funded, and the government wants you to have some sort of a degree. But because she had been doing it for so long, they let that go. They didn't raise an issue. So she became executive director, I think for close to 40 years, she was executive director. And you know, they started out in a storefront, and then they moved to 38th Street, and then they moved to 14th Street. And at 14th Street, they had a daycare center. So our Native women, working mothers, could bring their little ones in, and then they would graduate when they would go into, it was preschool, and then they would go into kindergarten. And I went to a few graduations. I went to Maki's graduation, and, you know, but I have to tell you, a funny part of that is I couldn't believe when I went in, the toilets were so tiny, you know, for these little kids. I went, oh my God, look at these tiny little toilets, you know, but they were for little kids, you know. And yeah, they were fed. And we always had a children's Christmas party during the holiday time that was very widely attended. And Rosemary made sure that every kid got a gift we would wrap these gifts. We always had a Santa Claus. Gloria played Santa Claus sometimes. Elizabeth's husband, David, played Santa Claus. You know, we had a lot of Santa Clauses, you know, to show up for the kids. And there was always, you know, hot dogs and potato chips and, you know, good things for them to eat and juice. And yeah, we always had that Christmas party with gifts for the kids, and they all showed up.
All she got was potato chips. Probably did.
Was I?
Sorry, didn't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And also the community house youth council. We all set up for that and did the shopping, and that was so
Yes,
much.
Yeah,
so much
we
fun.
had
Were the elves. I remember those times.
Yeah,
Those
we
were-
had a big group of youths. You know, the youth council was very big in those days. And they did a lot of work. As a matter of fact, Margaret went to work with the organization that
I used to work at Project Reach.
yeah, Project Reach,
Yeah.
which gave us some space when we lost our space a couple of years ago. So yeah,
I worked at Project Reach
yeah.
at one time or another.
I was 13.
Yeah, almost every one of our kids would go to work at Project Reach, you know. It's great. Wow,
Hey,
we're
sorry.
over.
I
We're
lost
way over.
service.
Oh,
No,
no, we're not over. It goes to
Fran,
7.
we're not over. We go till 7.
Yeah, till 7. I'm going, oh, we're over. Sorry.
We're good. We got a good half an hour.
Yeah.
Just under a half an hour left. We got you back, Melissa. You're here.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's that time of night for her on the res. too.
I'm happy, you know, it was very disheartening when it looked like the community house was going to close and when it and go down the tubes. It was really difficult to think of all of the wonderful things that we had done in those years and that they wouldn't be anymore. And I'm so happy to see us where we are building up. I'm happy to see all these great cult events for our community, and you know, it just, you know, we're going strong. I can't get on the floor, but I do love the fit, native fit. So I said, I
That's
will
why
not
we
get on the
modify
floor.
things.
I know, but you know, when I go in and then I have to leave, you modify it when I'm not there, you know, when I look at it. So, but that's okay. I will give it a whirl soon. But if you hear me yelling, you'll know I'm stuck on the floor and I can't get up.
Okay.
As my
You can do the recorded ones later.
yeah, as my 9-year-old grandson would say to me, Grandma, don't worry, if you fall, I'll call 911.
Sit down on the couch instead of the
I
floor.
said, okay, all right, I know I'm safe.
Oh, we
But
have a
yeah,
few
you know,
questions
I love the things that we're doing. And even this, I mean, I have to tell you, I don't see another organization out there that is keeping it going the way this is going. You know, I've kind of looked around and, you know, there's a few things going, but nothing like this. I mean, it's such a good opportunity for all of us to see each other. You know, it's one thing to talk on the telephone, it's one thing to text and email, but when you can do this and you can see each other, you know, it's just, you know, it's really nice. It really is.
Yeah, we were just starting the elder brunches just before this, right?
Yeah.
We actually got to be in person with each other for a little while. We even played bingo.
Yes. Yes, that was
We were
great.
really quick to get online. So we were really quick to transition.
Absolutely. You know, and I know nothing about, you know, me. Oh, how do I get out of here? What do I do? So that it's happening is like amazing to me. Really, really amazing.
Yeah, now everybody's zooming. Zoom.
Yeah, everybody's zooming. Yeah, now, but certainly not like we are. I mean, you know, I've checked in, not like this. This is great.
Yeah, we have a lot of competition now that everything's online.
And
'cause
that's
people don't
fine. You know,
meet.
everybody needs, everybody needs to be, you know, uplifted, and everybody needs to connect, and, you know, that's good. But I'm just so happy for what we do. I mean, we have a lot of Zoom programs, you know, I'm happy. And I know that you're going to Canada in a couple of weeks, Tanis, but
Fingers
that's
crossed.
not going to stop you, is it?
No, I told mom and dad I need a booster in the yard while I'm quarantining in the motorhome. I need a Wi-Fi booster. And then
Right.
I'll be in the house after that, so I'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah.
There's a question that someone asked me privately in the chat box, if you know, who created the community house logo? Do you know?
I think that was a collective thing, you know, different, they got together and they did various things, and we're talking about the original one, which we've gone back to, that, you know, we've gone back to that one. Yeah, I think it was Lance, do you remember who actually put that in? I know that Rosemary, and we didn't have a logo for a few years, but I think that Rosemary asked, you know,
It was
people
Brandon
to-
Tubby. He came up with the no. I don't know. I always remember that,
Yeah,
you know, from the very
yeah.
beginning. So it was created when I was very little. So I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we really don't know unless, you know. Unfortunately, when we left 11 Broadway, we lost a lot of our archives. Excuse me. Sounds like George's house.
Well, that's a good point, because, you know, Jennifer, you mentioned before all those things all the events in the circle on 404 Lafayette. At some point, they were recorded. This was back with VHS was the standard, so they were horrible compared to now. But we had cases and cases of videos of every event they had there for years, which, you know, after my mother stepped down as executive director, a lot of those things somehow got lost. So it's unfortunate, but even though some of those awards that I believe are just gone as well. So
That's so painful. I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask my mom about the logo too, because she
Oh,
was
good.
on the old website and at one point had all that stuff at where we lived, because there
Oh,
was back
okay.
then everything was hardcover and had to be specially scanned. Everything took 50,000. This is before everything was really digitized. So,
But
Yeah.
you know, it wasn't just the move from Broadway. You know, we made the move from Broadway to 29th, you know, further east on 29th. Then we had to move from there west to that other space on 29th. And then from 29th, the second 29th location, to where we are now on Eldridge. So there were a series of moves in a very short period of time. And I think, and I know because, and Lance, you know, and other people know that we were the ones moving it. I mean, we were physically having to pack all that stuff up and put it on our shoulders and get it into each new location. And it was just hard. It was hard to make sure we were taking care of everything and getting everything into the next location. So yeah, it is too bad, but yeah, there were a lot of moves. I still believe there's still some things that are stored. I still believe that we could, there's always things surfacing even now that we weren't sure where we put them temporarily. So I don't think, I think some things are probably not entirely lost. It's just a matter of, you know, getting through everything and finding where they are. But I was going to also
Yeah.
mention that there are some other archives that do give a lot of our history. And one of them was, and you all, some of you may remember this, that NYU did a whole series of recordings. I believe it was in the early 90s. And I know Sonny and a lot of people, you know, from a lot of the art community was interviewed during that time. And they're still available. They're still online, and we can still access a lot of that stuff. So there are some, they're not immediately known by people, but there are some archived pieces of our history in various institutions. And I think we can just find ways of assembling information on how to access that stuff.
Yeah, and also Sheldon Raymore has started AICH 50 Winters, where he's also keeping track of the history that we can uncover within the archives that we do have. He also lended a lot of that information to urban Indians and to a couple other, I think, exhibitions in and around the city. But we're working really hard towards putting that all together and finding more pieces to the puzzle of the last 50 years. So whoever wants to help with that, we can't say it enough. Let us know. Every now and again we get a volunteer, but they come in once and then they disappear and that's it. But it's very difficult for us to do everything on our own. So that so-called civic duty of volunteering and just helping out your community in that way is very much needed and really important. It's important work that we track that last 50 of the Native community in New York City, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah, so I think there was another question here that I was about to ask also. Ty Defoe, what is your hope 20, 30, 40 years from now for AICH? What do you dream? So let's start with year 20 and then we'll go on to year 30. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you want to start with me? I think that we all probably have a dream. I would just love to see it come back to its former glory, where all of those programs that we mentioned tonight are in effect. I think that that it was a wonderful time. People came in and out, and so many different activities that were attended. The artist showcase, the gallery, the food pantry. We had a food pantry. We had a clothing room, everything. So you could come in. We did a meal every single day in the middle of the meal, and people would come in and get that meal. And in some cases, that might have been their only meal, and it was a good, substantial meal. It could be meatloaf and mashed potatoes with a vegetable and some bread, and pies and things like that. It was a wonderful thing. It really was, and it gave people the opportunity to. There goes that thing again. But I know how to handle it. So that's my hope, and I hope that I am around long enough to see that.
I hope so too, Fran. We work really hard. I don't know if you all know this, but Fran is my right-hand man. We're a tag team in this. Navigating through all the negative and positive and just trying to weed out what works and what doesn't work, trying to move forward efficiently with all our principles and ethics intact, and just working towards the greater good of our community. But I think that I try my best not to stress Fran out, but I feel like she's here for it. 2 o'clock in the morning, raging.
It gives me something else to think about. But also I want to say that, there are a couple of board members that are really step up to the plate and really, dig in and answer a lot of the emails and the questions and put input. And one of them, of course, is Rick, the board chair, Lance, who is the vice chair. And Cody has stepped up to the plate a lot lately, and I think it might be because he has nothing else to do. He's home a lot, but he steps up, and and we all, I think that we all work pretty well together, for the good of the community and the community house. So
I have to admit that being in this position now, I've never felt more in sync with or in alignment with a group of people in trying to make something this huge work, you know, like between like specifically you, Fran, one, and Rick, who's like my champion, you know, somebody who I could always count on, and Sheldon Raymore. Yeah, and then
Yes,
Lance
Sheldon.
stepped in there this summer, and it just felt like it's a different feeling when everybody's in cohesion and everybody wants the same thing and is willing and wanting to work towards it, you know, and just similar thinking too. Like, I'm just so grateful to, you know, just have you all to work with. So yeah.
It's entirely mutual, completely, and more so. But I would also, and you talked about this, Fran, but I think so many great things are happening now, but it's also the fact that our lasting impact, people are out there all over, literally all over the world, who've been impacted by us either yesterday, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 30 years ago, who are going on and doing great things in our community and the larger community. And they'll be the first to tell you at really crucial times, it was H that was backing me. It was H that was giving me the support, you know? And again, it's literally people who we impacted yesterday or today, as well as people going further and further back. And they take what they learned, they take the support they got, they take the connections they made, the love that they received, the insight that they got from working with H, and they take it into all kinds of areas of work and life. And, you know, we know that. We know when we travel, we find that, and people speak to that. And just a real quick memory for you, Fran. You know, we first met about 22 years ago, and it was through the Connecticut connection, because, you know, I was in New Haven at the time. And this is just one good example. I was coming in from Arizona. I was trying to figure out, like, people have said, we're all the Native people, right? Trying to figure out how to do my job. I was working at Yale, which was not doing anything really, you know, for Native students who were coming in, or weren't really connecting to the Native community around Southern Connecticut or New York. And so that was the first thing we started doing, is connecting and doing work and trying to form a center. And where did we go for support? The American Indian Community House. And who was there for us? The American Indian Community House. So we were able to form a cultural center at Yale for Native students. We were able to start a powwow. The first one was in 1999, right? All the New Yorkers came in, you know, all the folks from Connecticut, everybody, and H has helped us connect in with all the Native people in the area. And we had this incredibly successful powwow that lasted for years, you know. And that just as one example, that cultural center, that Native American Cultural Center at Yale is going stronger than ever. They know that they know the history of how it started, you know. So it's just, H planted the seeds and was just such a significant part of so many things that began and have continued to now. So we always want to remember that. And I'm going to show a picture. I wish I had more from those early powwows. Anybody want to tell me who that is?
Who is that?
Fran?
Is that Tanis? That's not.
This is 1999. It's little Josephine.
Iakowi. Oh.
Little Josephine.
Oh my gosh. I was going to say that.
And I wish I had more. That's the only one I could find in that time period. But it gives you a sense of, like, you know, how long, you know, H was connected to the work I was doing, you know, 22 years ago in New Haven. So it's pretty cool to think about. And thank you all.
I just want to say, as a person who's been a museum educator, that I'm really interested in seeing someone do a Facebook page or whatever to post all of these photos and stories, you know. all of these personal photos that we can all put on one, one site and list who the person is, their tribal affiliation, the year. I would just love to see that.
Well, Nadima, that's what I keep mentioning over and over is the AICH 50 Winters Project. There's a whole website and there's a whole timeline that we continue to ask everybody. If you have pictures, even if you want to take a picture of your picture and send it to us, and maybe some content, the story behind it, the names, the year, all of those things would be a beautiful contribution towards the timeline, because that's the precise place to send that to. And again, that's Sheldon's, he's spearheading that and looking for volunteers. So Nadima, I think that that might be a good place for you to maybe help out a little bit in, I guess, reforming the past.
Okay.
And of course, like artistically as well, because you've been in the city for a while and in the art scene. So yeah, so that's the place.
Nadima, I love your outfit today too, as well as Fran. I love your outfits.
I just took my earrings off because they were getting a little heavy. But I took care with my hair because I need a haircut, and I decided to be bright and wear red. And then I love my new background, which Melissa and Tanis helped me put up. But I'm going to look for something else that I can, put up there for the next time. Now that I know how to do it, I'm learning. I learn something every day, and if I learn something every day, what more could you ask for? Who's this lovely
Does
person?
anybody else have any? Oh, I have a question for you. I am wondering, while you were growing up, what has your experience been with the census? Like when the census people come knocking on your door, how did you see your parents react to that?
Actually, the census people never knocked on our door. We never saw them. So, or if they did, I don't think that my grandparents answered the door. I did not become aware of the census until around 1960, when I was a grown-up, when I was at home with my first child, 61, we'll say. So yeah, I wasn't aware of that. And in those days, in the 60s, if I remember correctly, they did not have Native American Alaskan. They had a thing called other. So you would click on other, but you couldn't say what you were because there wasn't a place for you to say what you were. Now, they do put, that Native American, Alaskan Native, / Alaskan Native. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. So today, though, you don't hesitate to fill out the census, right?
Yeah, it's been filled. Yeah, it's already filled out, and very proudly we check that 5 people in this household are Native American. So we're being counted. We're up there.
I only asked because I remember as a child, while I was growing up, I primarily grew up with my grandparents, and they would slam the door a couple of times on them, but they're real persistent, and they'd be knocking again. And
yep, exactly.
Like,
they wouldn't answer the door.
Who are these people at our door? Get out of here,
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, just to get them to stop, they would fill it out and like, go on now, get off of my property. But yeah, so, and I always sort of wondered why that was, but it's that stigma of sharing data or sharing information, and then not having control about how it's being used, and most likely being used against us as something that was a common occurrence throughout history. So I was just wondering if you had a similar experience with that. But now we're all
Oh, yeah,
included.
no, they wouldn't answer the door. They wouldn't, yeah, they would not answer the door. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, they were always, well, they wouldn't answer the door for a lot of people unless they knew you. You know, they came from that period when, you know, they didn't trust a lot of non-native people. So, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I'm gonna just quickly pull up the AICH 50 Winters page. I'm gonna share my screen. So we have a nice video here that was made with AICH memories, mainly our socials and so forth. Then you can go through the page here, and hopefully, Fran, at some point, you and Lance and everybody here, if you have any information of or any pictures to share, we would like to plug it in here. As you all know, we just celebrated our 50-year anniversary this past year. So yeah, we want to fill in the blanks. As we all know, the past 130 years of Native American history was basically erased out the textbooks. So yeah, this is our chance to start rewriting and filling in the blanks from our perspective, our stories, and from our elders. Yeah, so we can learn more about how to move forward. So yeah, I hope you all can take a chance to think about volunteering for that, any information, or just checking it out in any way.
And you know, I'll share it. You know, I knew it was there, but I got a little distracted the last year or so. But yeah, I see that, and I'm going to share it, you know, all over. Some of the people I know who were involved at that time, who might have a lot of stuff. Jennifer had mentioned, you know, her mother, and Jennifer, I do remember your mother being in Rosemary's office, and she did a lot of technical stuff for Rosemary. I remember that. So I'll bet your mother does have a lot of good stuff, which would be great. Can you hear me?
We'll see what she moved to. I don't know what made it through that move, but before the move, there was a ton of stuff. There's everything that the community house wanted on the website. So it was all the actors and their bios. There was a whole section for that. I remember that. And
yeah,
all kinds of this and that. That's all I remember. But Fran, I appreciate you. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
Fran, do you remember Louise LeClaire?
You know what? If I saw her face, but I don't, the name doesn't ring a bell with me. There were a lot of people that I knew and moved around and knew of them, but didn't always, you know, retain their names, who they were. And I find that with the permanent forum, I probably have at least 500 acquaintances, and I know their faces, and, you know, oh, hi, how are, and some of them I don't know their names. And, you know, it's unfortunate because I never took one of those courses that made you remember all that stuff, which, you know, is too bad.
She used to post a bunch of pictures from the community house on Facebook back about 10 years ago. You know, she was always posting. She was pretty much had a lot of pictures from the community house. And I don't know whether she's still on Facebook. I haven't heard from her in a long
She
time.
is. I'm friends with her. She posts all the time.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
And her, I know she had a little daughter on my age,
Oh, Lance.
Reese.
Okay. So that way you guys can get in touch with her because she has a lot of pictures from the community house.
Oh, okay. You're on it. You're on that, Lance.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it
Lance, Board President,
I'll
get
just,
on it.
I'll just steal her pictures and she won't even know. Send it to you.
No. Okay, so I'm just doing a time check. We could take a few more minutes. Fran, do you have any final messages to the community and to younger people coming up that are looking towards organizing within the community? Do you have any ideas?
For the young people, what I would say is do not be afraid to get involved. While we may look a little scary because we are the elders and we're not. So do get involved because, we'd love to have you involved. And I'm very happy that even that other age group, 30, 35, 40 are being more involved now as well. And yeah, and I think that, just communicate with us. We'd love to hear from you and we'd love to help you out, if we can, all here, everybody here, there's a wealth of knowledge here. Somebody has expertise and thoughts on something. Not all of us have it in one thing, but collectively, there's a great deal of knowledge and wisdom in this group. And even in the younger ones, they're amazing at times too, because the things that they come up with and share. So just, keep it up. Just talk to us, call us, reach out. Yeah. And we'll reach back.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to seeing more young ones come to the community house, especially the babies. I look forward to watching them grow up. I already have plans to get all the adults and the elders in creating regalia for them and taking them to powwows and teaching them how to dance. We already got Ty Defoe, our famous powwow dancer. He's going to be our instructor. So yeah, so we have a lot of not big dreams, but big goals that are about to happen very soon. Yeah. And friends right here with me, dreaming them up, and we're putting them together and putting them in motion. So yeah, so we open up the community house and are really open and available to helping you all get to where you want to go, professionally, culturally. Yeah. So just
exactly.
Yeah, we're here for you. But also, I guess we could do a recap for what's coming this week. Tanis, would you like to share of our upcoming events?
Sure. Today is Wednesday, right? After this, we have Vulbriety tonight. I think it's actually just started at 7. Is it 7 to 9? It usually is.
Yeah.
And the last session for that, I think, or the next is Friday, same time, 7 to 9. Tomorrow we have a live play reading called The Rabbit Play that was mentioned earlier by Ryan Victor Pierce, who's Lenape and lives down the street from me in Mannahatta here. That is at 8 o'clock. It's about an hour and a half. We'll be hopefully streaming that live on Facebook. If not, you can catch it on YouTube. Friday at noon is another Fit Native class for all levels and abilities. And are we doing a makers on Friday? Melissa? We might be doing a beading circle on Friday. We'll keep you posted about that. Other than that, Saturday from 12 to 2 and Sunday 12 to 2, every weekend we do this is Sacred Spaces, Honoring Our Elders Talking Circle. So it's a little more private. We don't stream it to Facebook. It's kind of the same thing we were doing here. It's just not streamed to Facebook. And confirmation, we are doing a beading circle 4 to 6 on Friday. And Sunday at 3 o'clock, Sheldon Raymore does his half an hour Facebook Live where he updates everybody with what's going on with the community house, with all of our events and some things to know that's going on in general all over in our communities. Sort of our little news channel, 30-minute
Yeah, that's always nice to tap into.
Yeah, and then on Tuesday we have our social justice series that runs every Tuesday that Tatiana Benali leads, and this coming Tuesday she's doing one on MMIW, or Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. That's May 5th is the day. It coincides with the day for Missing and Murdered. So yeah, Melissa says wear red. I think that's all.
Yeah, I think that's it. I also want to ask everybody to really find the community members that are experiencing COVID right now. There's a couple of community members out there in a large part of Indian country who
That's you. That's me practicing at home.
COVID and are positive right now. Keep them in your minds and in your hearts. If possible, like smudge, burn tobacco, send some strength and power out to our grandfather Moon. Let him know that we need you to step in and help heal our people. We've had a beautiful person just passed recently. Her daughters are on here. Miss Victoria Tarrant